there, and welcome to We Have Spoken, the official podcast of Star Wars, a custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, the largest 112 scale custom Star Wars collective on the planet. If you're interested in learning how to customize 6-inch Star Wars action figures or build world-class dioramas for your shelf display, visit 112galaxy.com. As always, my name is Corey Frya, and today I'm joined by a pair of group admins. Introducing first, he's a man who desperately wishes he could surf the Dune Sea. It's Matty D.
Hello there.
I see you brought the child, too. That's a nice
Wherever
touch.
he goes, I go.
Yeah, well, that's great because you stole my intro to the next one. Because if I were the Mandalorian and he would be my baby Yoda, because anywhere he goes, I go. It's Ryan Carreri.
Hello there.
All right. So we had another action-packed episode there, directed by Grief Karga himself, Carl Weathers. And I guess after last week's mention of Ahsoka, we sat down, we discussed what would happen, and we didn't see her this week. We predicted that. We expected to see another side quest here where his ship stopped off for repairs, and that's exactly what happened. Fortunately, Mando has very few allies, so that brought us to Navarro, where we got to see some, a reunion with Grief Karga, Cara Dune, looking very sultry, but might I add, and Baby Yoda and Mando. Guys, what did you think of this episode overall as a whole? Let's just start it off there. Matty, your thoughts.
Honestly, I don't know how it just keeps getting better for me. I just loved everything. I've said this like every time. Every discussion we've had so far, I say the same thing. There's literally nothing about this episode that I didn't like. We just get to learn so much more. It's expansive. You can see the improvements in CGI and the character evolution and Baby Yoda, Lil Yeet. I mean, I loved it. I just loved it. Just loved it.
Yeah, I agree with Matty. The bad thing is, I guess every week we always have so much praise for it, but there's really nothing you can complain about. It's such a good show.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like we're like, let's talk about this. And then we're all like, yep, that was awesome. Yep, that was awesome. I agree, that was awesome. But in reality, it's because it was that good. To me, this episode sort of felt like an episode of Star Wars Rebels come to life in live action, and not in a bad way, in a good way. Because some people are like, oh, Rebels, that's a cartoon show. Well, guess what? If you weren't watching Rebels, then you probably have no idea what's going on with the Darksaber and the Mandalorian, so have fun with that. But this is exactly what it felt like, and with Filoni's influence, you knew it was going to be there at some point. It was just great from start to finish. And again, the presence of the Empire, which I'll touch on later, another welcomed return. So good. Something else in this episode, I guess we'll talk about, get it out of the way, is that there were a lot of Baby Yoda moments in this episode. Like, there's probably going to be a bajillion memes made of this episode. So let's just go ahead and say what your favorite Baby Yoda moment is right here. And get it out of the way. Matty, your favorite moment with Lil Yeet.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to say it might be either when he lifts the cookies from that punk kid, which I suppose makes Lil Yeet a punk himself for stealing something. But it was so good. He's like, "Give me the cookies." Like, no. I really loved that, and then I honestly loved when they were doing the fight. The scene where they're rotating the ship and he's in the back seat holding his cookies and he's just having the best time. I mean, could they make this guy any more adorable? I mean, they're just killing it with him. He's so good.
Yeah, Matty, my favorite would probably be either in the beginning of the episode when he was doing the wiring.
Yeah, that was awesome too.
Oh, yeah.
But then I also loved when they were doing the dogfight and he's just acting like he's on a roller coaster, just having a great time with his arms up.
Yeah, he
so
loves
good.
Chaos and destruction. Everywhere he goes, he just seems to take some enjoyment in that. Honestly, until you mentioned it, I totally forgot about the start with the wiring. That was totally like a little Baby Groot moment with Rocket Raccoon just translated into Star Wars. That was really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's become pretty transparent that you can see the overlap of a lot of the Marvel films. Like, that influence is coming over, but I feel like in a positive way where it's not over the top. They're still staying true to Star Wars, but giving us a little bit more, what do you want to say, modern fun? I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, a modern twist on modern humor, but where it also fits. Whereas, I mean, I think I hate to always take a crap on The Last Jedi, but one thing we always criticize it at the very beginning is that prank phone call thing with Poe Dameron. It doesn't fit at all. That's the kind of humor that's like, yeah, is it funny? Yeah, but in the context of Star Wars, no. Whereas this one sort of fits because not only are they trying to figure out and communicate with one another, but I mean, how the hell else does, like I was thinking when I saw that little shaft, I was like, how the heck else does he fix this ever without taking this thing apart? Because without a little dude to crawl in there, it seems like it's just impossible to get at. That's a weird design. That was my first thought. I don't know. How about you, Ryan? Since you're used to electrician and wiring things, did that seem a little bizarre to you?
Well, it seemed like a nightmare. You should know, I hate wiring.
Very much so.
That looked like an absolute nightmare, and I would stuff a baby down there to do the wiring as well.
I would just stuff a baby down there for fun. I'm just throwing it out there.
Remember what I was saying previously about existential stuff and growth? Yeah, I think we sort of reversed course when he stuffs the kid into a metal box in the back and has him doing child labor. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. And
That's right.
He's never shied away from putting Baby Yoda in danger before. So heck, why not?
Nobody rides for free, baby. Literally.
Yeah, literally. Let's talk about the return to Navarro because it was pretty cool. We saw that Cara Dune had become the Marshal of Navarro, and she cleaned up the town, kind of similar to what Cobb Vanth did on Tatooine. So we had like a female counterpart. We saw the town it was fixed up. There was more color. There was more people, or I guess less seedy people. The town, the market was all, I don't know. There just seemed more life and more positivity. There was more sunlight, I guess you could say, or whatever.
Wholesome.
Yeah, wholesome. There we go. There was even a big statue for IG-11 honoring his heroic moment of basically liberating the entire town, which I didn't see until like 2 seconds before going on to the podcast. So shout out to my boy IG-11. I'm gonna pour one out for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest change on Navarro was Grief Karga had a little familiar friend working for him, and that was the Mythrol from Season 1, Episode 1. And I guess he's not working, he's kind of owes a life debt to Grief, so basically he's Grief's blue comic relief slave boy. I know a lot of people...
Bitch.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the Mythrol in this first season. They're like, I don't like this guy, he kind of looks like Ape Sapien. I personally was always a Mythrol fan. I enjoy a little bit of comic relief. Guys, your overall thoughts on the Mythrol's return, how he was used, and was he too much or was he just enough?
I love the Mythrol. I'm a big fan of appropriate comic relief and even like side gags and that sort of thing. I love when they all walk in and Mando walks past and I don't know what the right word is, but when he has that mist come out of his neck where it was like, I guess that would be the Mythrol fart from the neck or something. I don't know what he did, but I thought that was hilarious. It made me, it was side splitting. I think it's great. I think it's great to have characters like him. I think he's interesting and he's clearly got something to contribute to the story, even if it's not like a meaningful component of the arc. I thought it was great. And just one thing before Ryan jumps on, I did want to say that, Corey, to address what you said, and I agree with you, the fact that they returned to Navarro, which we did talk about and sort of predict last week, I think it does go to show, taking a step back to what I said before about the existential thing and the growth, I think with Cara Dune, you're starting to see that with her character. You're seeing it in the town, how she's behaving.
Yeah.
So I think all these characters are continuing to evolve, which I love. I think it's a great and important part of this storytelling process.
Yeah, and Ryan, if you want to touch on that Cara Dune, how we saw more of her backstory, go right ahead as well. Feel free.
First off, Navarro looks great in this episode. The evolution of it just made it look perfect. The way Cara Dune wipes out those Aqualish, perfect.
Yeah.
Which was cool because we had talked about
them.
Yeah, like last episode we were like, which aliens do you guys want to see a lot of? And then boom, we saw a bunch of them right then and there. So that was cool. That's the first thing I thought of.
Also, Space Weasel. We got a Space Weasel.
Yeah, the little meerkat looking thing.
But the Mythrol, loved seeing him come back. He's just that weird alien that I wanted to come back. Don't have any idea why, but he's humorous and I like him, so keep him around, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be upset if he became like a permanent little sidekick every time they visit Navarro. Boom, you get a little little Mythrol action. I did like how he didn't have a name. He was just the Mythrol.
Yeah, you took the. I was gonna say, does he even have a name? But I think you just addressed it. I don't think he has one yet, right?
No, is his name like Barry? Why is he the Mythrol? It worked for Star Wars, but I prefer to call him Barry the Mythrol now. That's
his new name.
Barry. Barry.
It's Barry.
That's great.
So from I guess this little meeting with the Mythrol and the reunion with Greef and Cara Dune, we have Mando thrust into yet another side quest, which, like I said before, is very fitting considering he has to get his ship repaired anyways. So what's he going to do as payment? Well, I'll help you out. You're going to repair my ship, blah, blah, blah. We get that thing going on. So they're headed off to an Imperial installment that's still left on Navarro. It's the last of the Empire from, I guess, what's left over from when I fought Moff Gideon on Navarro beforehand, and it's the climax of season 1. The base is very reminiscent of something you would see in Star Wars Rebels, and a little bit of Rogue One as well. Guys, the Return of the Empire, it was awesome for me. I think last episode I gushed about the Return of the Empire again, but seeing those stormtroopers was so cool. Maddie, what did you think of the storm on the Imperial hold here, and the very questionable, or I guess confusing or mysterious discovery we found inside?
I'm sort of speechless. I keep saying I love it. I really do. I mean, they're hitting all the touch points, and with all the homage that they're paying to the original trilogy, to the prequels. I mean, with all the little touches that we're getting, it's amazing. And it's interesting because having read some commentary after having watched this new episode, yesterday several times. It's interesting that people keep saying, "Oh, look at this side story." It's like, honestly, this didn't really feel like as much of a side story as maybe the last episode, because there's a lot of meat on the bone for us to chew on here, because we have a lot of interesting setups for the next episode. As we head into, we're already at the midpoint, so now we're heading down the backslide. I thought it was great. I think it serves as a perfect foil. I know that we talked about this before about the Imperial officers not having accents, but gosh, Giancarlo Esposito just has such a commanding, almost regal type of presence that he doesn't need one, and it's perfect. I mean, he's so badass. We got the Legends homage with what appears to be maybe some Dark Troopers in there. We got what looks like maybe a Snoke or something in the tank. I mean, it's just awesome. I just love this show. I don't want it to end. Why? Why?
Matty, I completely agree, and you kind of stole one of the points I was going to bring up with the cloning, or whatever we want to call it. I think this is kind of how they're going to tie in the original make for the Palpatine clones.
Yes. You mean for the sequel movies? You mean to bridge the gap there? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because Snoke was all just failed clones of Palpatine,
right?
And we kind of see that with these weird deformed creatures, kind of sharing that same bulbous head that Snoke had.
Yep.
Weird body shape.
I think that's going to be how they tie into the sequels. That's just my thoughts, trying to make them force sensitive with Lil Yeat's M count.
Yeah, the M count. Who thought we'd ever hear anything or even a reference to midichlorians again? But the fact that they were able to hide it with the M count, I was like, you clever sons of bitches. You were able to fit it in without it being weird, and people are going to be okay with it. Because as soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Well, it gives you a direct tie back, right? Like continuity, and as cringy as I remember when I saw Phantom Menace in the theater, and I thought, oh my god, did he just say midichlorians? I mean, I just said the word itself, but I think it's really smart and clever the way that they did that. And honestly, I feel like they keep wrapping the bow tighter with each sequential episode that we get. They're doing a much better job of, like Ryan was just saying, linking things together so that there is continuity there, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and the fact they found a way just to, I don't know how the internet's going to react to the midichlorian thing, but I didn't think there was a way that they could have pulled it off where I would have been okay with it, and I totally was. So I don't know if it was the way it was delivered or the way it was made sense, because it totally made sense and how to reference something, but it was just there, and it fit perfectly.
I feel like the subtlety of it was what pulled it all together.
Agreed. Yeah. I agree completely. And it left me wondering too. Sorry, Corey, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I just have a question for you guys both. And for anyone who's listening, I think it's interesting now, because what I'm starting to wonder about is, with the possibility of, transferring Force essence, or whatever you want to say, is this something that Gideon wants to use for himself? Is this something that he wants to use to build clones or an army? Is he actually now looking for Yeet, or is he looking for Ahsoka? Like, there's just so many good setups here. So many good setups.
And then it's funny you mentioned that, because, like, is he doing it, or is he doing it on somebody's behalf?
Exactly.
And then, because I remember before this season, there was a report that came out. I don't remember where it first broke, but it was like, you're going to see, this season will touch on the beginnings of the First Order. And everybody's like, oh no, it's going to touch on the sequels. That's not. And I was one of those people too. I was like, don't go too deep into that. I don't want that crap. For lack of a better term. But this made sense. If you look at the timeline of Star Wars, they were able to connect it to the sequels loosely here, and it fit perfectly. And again, like the midichlorians and the M count, I don't think anybody's going to put a fuss up that we kind of saw weird Snoke clones, which weren't confirmed, but that clearly is where they're headed, if they'll ever confirm that thing. But again, it's tying story threads together, and the larger narrative just coming together as one, and again, planting more seeds, like with Cara Dune's backstory and the return of that rebel pilot, who I can't remember his name right now, but the guy from Kim's Convenience, that guy. Again, really hard-working pilot.
Carson.
Carson. Is it Carson? Okay, Carson. Yeah, I'll remember that. Carson's back. I imagine Sean Fear, if he doesn't have a head cast of that guy, will probably have one designed in the next 30 seconds. So keep a lookout for that. My favorite.
Can I just throw something out there real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
He ends up doing that Carson design, and he does the torso as well, then you can clearly get to a Porkins. I'm just saying.
I mean, everybody knows Porkins is really the main event in that pairing, but that's neither here nor there. But shout out to my Thicc boy pilots, because they need some love.
Big boy.
Thicc boy pilots. All right. I think we might have just found our podcast episode name. And maybe a t-shirt idea too. Anyhow, last episode we had spoken about how awesome the music was, and Ludwig Göransson did another great job this time around. But I think what stole the show for me sound-wise was just the sound effects. From the get-go, when Mando's flying down, or he's getting ready to descend into Navarro, we hear the hyperdrive dying, and it's very reminiscent of what we heard on the Falcon in the original trilogy, to the blaster fire, to the way the stormtroopers spoke, even the way they said certain things, like, there he is, blast him, things like that. But the TIE fighters, man, the sound of the TIE fighters, that was absolutely epic. Oh man, as somebody who grew up playing TIE Fighter or X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and Love and Rogue Squadron, after seeing that dogfight and hearing those sound effects so expertly used, I definitely think they could do a Rogue Squadron show or like movie or whatever after seeing that, because they did that on a lower budget than what you would spend on, say, a movie, and they did it for TV inside that little volume with CGI and stuff. It was brilliant. What did you guys think about the sound effects? Did anything stand out in your mind from this episode? I know there was a very familiar scream we hadn't heard in a while. Maddie, what'd you think about that?
Well, sure, yeah. Obviously, the sounds from the ships passing, the dying engines and jets and all that kind of stuff was very reminiscent of the Falcon and other things we've heard before. Of course, the pew-pews and all the throwbacks with the blasters and the little catchphrases were great. Obviously, as you mentioned, the scream, the Wilhelm screams were in full effect, which was awesome. I love watching those dudes fall over the rail and you just hear them wail as they're falling endlessly. It's so great. So, no, they're killing it. And, Corey, I actually, after our last discussion on the podcast here, I started paying a little bit closer attention to the score itself. And wow, it really just complements the show so well. I was thinking, for example, with what you were saying, when in the latest episode, she walks in the very last scene when they walk in and the doors open and there's Moff Gideon with the steam coming from the floor, and you hear that really ominous beat and that pulse start to kick up, and it was like, wow, this is so awesome. It really is. So I loved everything about it.
The sound effects are perfectly done in this. I love the TIE fighter. That screech is just iconic. One of the things I really enjoyed, and I don't know why, that troop carrier speeder,
Yeah,
or
that
whatever
thing's
kind
awesome.
of speeder it is, that thing just sounded mean.
What's funny is they made a point, like the Mithril said, I forget the name of it. He like made a point to say its name. It was like, oh, he pointed out and actually said what it was and referenced it, and then I totally forgot. So, but seeing that
Oh,
thing again
and
was really cool. Yeah.
I also loved seeing the scout troopers on the speeder bikes again.
Oh, dude, when they went off the side of the cliff, that was
Oh,
so cool.
so cool. Even though they crashed like always.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
hilarious. The first those two guys knocked each other. It was so good.
And you hear them like shifting gears. It sounded just like Return of the Jedi. It was. I was just sitting there. I was like, if I could just close my eyes and picture every single thing that was going on just based on the sound of it. Oh, I know it just sounds like we praise this show so much, and we just come on here for 30, 45 minutes and just say how much we love the show. But honestly, I'm not lying. If there was something to criticize, I would lead with it because it would be something unique to speak about. But there really just isn't.
Yeah, the only criticism we typically have is the episode length.
Yeah, I mean, let's say I can nitpick and say, hey, when they put Baby Yoda in the school, all the children are human, and that bothers me. And yeah, deep down, it's annoying, but also it doesn't matter, and it makes Baby Yoda stand out more. Outside of that, I got nothing to complain about. I mean,
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to mention something. I almost forgot about it till you just mentioned Lil Yeet in the school. What's interesting is how he doesn't have control over his ability to use the Force entirely. Have you noticed that? I was thinking back to like season 1 when he's about to be shot by that droid Zero, and he puts his hand up, and then Mando saves him. And there are other times where he's put up his hands and he's tried to do something, but boy, when he wanted those cookies, that Force was like, here we go.
Again,
Come
yeah,
get 'em.
it's just like a dog. It's like having determination to get what you want. When it's food,
That's
they will
right.
do anything. That's the first thing I was
Yes.
like, he's like, the little kid goes, no, like you can't have it. And he's like, well, I'll take what I want. Because
That's right.
as we've said every single episode, Lil Yeet gotta eat. And eat
Lil
he did.
Yeet gotta eat.
And it wouldn't shock me if we started seeing whenever this whole pandemic thing's done. If we started seeing some of this food and drink that we've seen in Mandalorian introduced at the at Galaxy's Edge parks for Disney, that'd be really cool to go actually get some blue cookies and get some spotchka and all that cool stuff. It's got to happen, right? They're not that stupid. They got to have that integration and planned ahead, right?
For sure. You can count on it. I mean, blue macaroons are pretty easy to find everywhere now, so.
Boom, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, easy to find now, hard to find in the future.
Yeah, good point.
So since we are, a customizing group, let's talk about some customs and diorama figures and things we'd like to see from this episode. I'll start. I think the thing I want to see the most, Maddie, it's not what you're going to say. It's not what you think it is.
I'm just laughing. I know what's coming. Go ahead.
I'll leave that one for you. I want to see the Mithril's 4-person land speeder. That was 4-seat land speeder. That was because it was reminiscent of Luke's speeder in A New Hope, but also a little mixture with what we saw in the very first episode of Mando when he's calling the taxi, and the droid one pulls up, and then the one with I can't remember his name, but the comedian that talks Brian Posehn, that's his name. I had to do the voice first to do it. Brian Posehn was driving, so that's what I would really like to see. I think that'd be really cool to see a 4-person 1/12 scale speeder. Maddie, how about you? That I just set you up for.
Well, that was such a lob. Thank you so much, and for sparing my pick of the week. Gotta go with Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans, dude. Come on, I mean, gotta put that one up on the rack. I mean, is that not the easiest custom ever? I think there's actually a Marvel Legends figure you can convert quite handily. But kidding aside, I agree with you. I would love to see that new speeder that they were rolling was really, really cool. I'm going to go out here on a limb and say, I wouldn't mind seeing one of those Imperial transports, whether it's a troop transport. They had them, or I had one as a kid in the 375. So vehicles, I would love to see that. And Gosh, I don't want to say too much. I want to give Ryan a shot to see if he throws out there my next thought. So let's see what Ryan has to say, and then I'll
I probably
circle
won't
back.
throw out what you're thinking.
Yeah, I bet.
When Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans is off the table, it's anything's fair game.
It's tough at that point. But I would like to see the Imperial carrier, whatever that was.
Yeah.
I think that would be something cool for those 3D designers to make.
Hint, hint.
Also, I think this new outfit for Grief Cargo would be pretty cool to see.
Oh, yeah.
We got some pretty good head sculpts on the page, so a new Magistrate Karga outfit.
With the white beard. He's got the Santa beard just for the season. It's the reason for the season.
Those are my picks. Maddie, what were you trying to get me to say?
Well, we were chatting about this online earlier, so I'm going to throw out there, if it's what I think it is, if we're getting Dark Troopers from Legends, I mean, good God, please.
How to forget that one?
Turn the printing press on, like, immediately. I just think anytime that we have an opportunity to get really cool-looking troopers like that, you got to produce them so people will buy them. I mean, those are so cool. I mean, we don't know exactly what they are yet, but I thought you were going to mention that for sure.
Well, me being the one that sends the picture in our group chat, of course I'm not going to be the one who remembers them.
Right?
Well, like, I guess Moff Gideon lost all of his Death Troopers in Navarro, right? I guess.
Yeah, clearly.
So he said, I got to upgrade. If these are indeed Dark Troopers, it will be the first time we've ever seen them in live action. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, they weren't in any, like, I don't remember seeing them in Rebels, and clearly the Empire wasn't around. And
no, they're throwback to some of the old video games, I think, right? I don't think they've been in. Yeah, they're not in anything recent from what I remember.
That's
and they look like the Phase Ones. They might be a modified version of the Phase One, just because they're making it new canon.
Then I imagine they altered the design a little bit for live action and for I guess budget purposes too. A little bit. Man, they looked, whatever they were, we're going to say they're Dark Troopers now. I can't wait to see them.
They looked ominous.
Let me tell you, in the audio description, when you have it up on the episode, they are labeled as Dark Troopers.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
I just, honestly, when we start thinking about customizing and building dioramas, I mean, I think dioramas, in terms of anything that anyone can conceptualize, is pretty much safe space, because we're not likely to get those from the big manufacturers.
No.
But what I think is interesting, and what we've started to see over the last couple years, and this gets back to like when Corey and I first started building, but it's interesting to see that so much of the stuff that fans want, we're getting now, not only from the old films, but now we're starting to get stuff pulled from Legends. So, unless you're really thirsty trying to be the first guy to build everything, a little bit of patience can kind of go a long way. And I think it also allows people like us as builders to really focus on more specific stuff for backfill, right? Because if we know that, for example, Cobb Vanth is coming, I think we can all collectively agree that that's likely going to be a figure we're going to get. Yeah. Well, then I can dedicate my time to focusing on other stuff, to build stuff to support Cobb Vanth being in a display of some sort. So I think it's interesting to see how this has evolved as a collector and a builder, because we're getting a lot more stuff than I ever thought we would, especially from the Legends part, which is great. So,
and it's what you're saying is it's never ring more true in all of my years of customizing. A good prime example here is when Sean Fear from Watto Scrapyard designed the Weequay bartender. Back when I started customizing, if I'd wanted to make a fat Weequay, I don't even know where I would have started. I guess I probably would have sculpted the head myself, or at least attempted to. But now the fact that in 2020, almost 2021, that we can just go get that head as if it was scanned in because it's so expertly designed, that's a gem that I really hope everybody truly appreciates out there. Because that wasn't around that many years ago. I'm talking like as recent as 4 years ago. This is a recent development, is all these cool 3D design parts and third-party kits that guys like Watto Scrapyard, Outer Rim Traders, John Walker Customs, I'm going to forget people.
Scoundrel Stock,
yeah, all those guys. And if I forgot you, sorry. But, man, I just want to say special shout-out to all you guys who take the time. And I know you make money off it. I make money off stuff too. But that's not what it's about. You're not making much. I know it, because I do the same damn thing. But I appreciate everybody who dedicates their time to offer this stuff up to our community, because it just makes customizing and fandom of Star Wars and what we do as a community so much more enjoyable. And yeah,
I think it makes it easier. It makes it easier too, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously these things aren't plug and play, and that's
right.
For me, it's part of the fun is be able to work on things and customize them myself. But the fact that they're out there, and like I just saw something yesterday in the episode. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm sure it's in the next day or two you're going to see somebody post something newly designed like it was magic. And if you're one of the guys that designed that and offer that to the community, thank you, man. Or lady,
for sure.
Or whoever you want to identify yourself as. I'll call you the Mythrol, Barry the Mythrol, if that's what you want to be called.
Barry.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Yeah, I don't think those guys get enough love sometimes. I just wanted to give them a shout out.
Well, yeah, I can think back to when I started customizing like 2 or 3 years ago. You had the casters, and then it was kind of like 3D printing was still kind of newish.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially when it came to like resin printing.
Oh yeah,
resin prints are so clear. But now there's so many talented people just creating head sculpts and different accessories and everything. It's crazy how far it's come in the short amount of time that I've been customizing.
Yeah, what's crazy is like from the stuff. It's weird how like in all my work I've done for Sandcrawlers, how it's shifted. Where at one point I was producing things to paint for people, but now there's so much stuff being produced by people that I just enjoy painting other people's work. Where I get something from Scoundrel Stock, usually once every other week or so, or I get something from John Walker Customs, or I get something from Watto Scrapyard, and obviously I have a never-ending supply of Outer Rim Trader stuff funding to me. It's just cool to be able to get a chance to do that, and there's so much going on right now that I feel I don't have to contribute to building that stuff, and I can just kind of enjoy it as a customizer. That's how plentiful it is now. It's amazing. It's like a golden age of 1/12 scale customizing right now. So I really hope everybody just takes a moment and breathes that air of appreciation in and realizes how good we've got it, because it's awesome, man.
And also, I think it's important to give everyone a shout out too, because we have some resources in the group that we don't really discuss a lot. And for the names of people who do design and sales of these great products that everyone's using and seeing, we have a list of resources in the group at the top of the page, so everyone make sure to check it out. So, in case we didn't mention someone, there's a complete list of resources there, and it's really amazing. And to everything you guys said, I agree 100%. There's so many talented people out there doing so many amazing things, and it's evolved so quickly from nascency to seems like almost full maturity within 18 months.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's wild. Yeah. It's changed the game completely. I mean, completely.
I love seeing side-by-side comparisons, too, of like, I made this figure 3 years ago, and this one came out with this one, and that one from 3 years ago was better than this one. It's like, it's a testament to what the talent and the eye that our customizers have. Obviously, Hasbro can't mass-produce some things that we do, but it's just really cool to see the effort that people have put into these characters, and now how easy we can do it. Just like, I love it. Matty did mention something at the top of the page there, and that's the admin announcements. There's a lot of them there, but if you do scroll down, you will find that archive that Matty mentioned, and in that archive is something that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because it's one of Ellie's most favorite things that we offer to the group, and that is, if you're new to the group or old to the group, or maybe you don't know it's there, it's recipe sheets. These are recipe sheets that are custom characters, I guess popular characters from Star Wars, different eras, and they've been broken down into different pieces that people have used, whether, limbs, cast parts, 3D printed parts, and it's all there in one recipe sheet. It tells you where to get it, what to do. There's even some that tell you what paint to use. So if you're one of those guys that doesn't know where to start, or even if you know where to start and you're just looking for, a little bit of guidance, that's where to go. Check it out. It's in those admin announcements. So much important information. Again, if you're new, there's a ton of information about what paints, all that stuff. You know what? Now we're talking about this. I think we're needing an episode all about all this stuff. So maybe after Mando, we can sit down and talk about the resources we have available to the group and stuff like that. I think that'd be really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah. Any last word, guys? Any last words?
No, just it's always a pleasure chatting with you guys, and I want to give a shout out to Corey for everyone to hear and know that, it's awesome that you're putting this together for the community. And it's a pleasure to be participating with you and with Lewis, who's not here with us today, Ellie and Ryan. But thank you for putting this together, and I can't wait till next week.
Very welcome, very welcome.
Big shout out to Corey. He's the man behind all this, and I'm just here for the ride. So it's always a pleasure.
All right, guys, your payments are in the mail. I appreciate it. And as always, for everybody here at Star Wars, a Custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, we have spoken. May the Force be with you always.